This is the facelift of the Audi Q7. We'll tell you all about it, what has changed on the exterior, interior, and we can also already tell you something about driving because we'll also talk about the technology. Let's dig deeper in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go. Taking a look at the front, this is, pretty remarkable because they have really facelifted this vehicle. It is closer now to the Q8, so the front grille is bigger, also has those vertical lines. This is also the sporty S-line, features some contrast in the lower end here in gray. LED is now standard headlamp, then optional matrix LED, and those ones are the optional laser lights. They do not offer it in the US. Unlike BMW does, but then with a reduced range. So they said, it doesn't make sense. So in the US you would get the matrix LED, but this one here for Europe and some other markets, the laser light, you can see that with those blue accentuations. Somewhat it has become common language to describe, when it's a laser, let's mark it in blue. Pretty interesting, isn't it? You can also see the technology features here, for example, the big sensors, because a lot of technology features now new in this car. The assistance systems have been upgraded. Tell you soon more about that. And by the way, this color here for today is called Matador Red. 5'06", 16'6", or 199 inches is the length of the Q7. That, of course, has not changed with the facelift, since they do not change any major chassis parts with the facelift, but they have indeed changed some technology parts. First of all, you get a base steel suspension as standard for an entry Q7, then optional an air suspension, and then there's an advanced suspension package, and this one then adds the rear axle steering, 5 degrees either across or parallel direction, then the front wheels depending on lower or higher speeds, and also with the anti-tilt control, so it works basically against the rolling effect of the car. So far that was reserved to the S models of the vehicle, now also available for the normal Q7 models. And well, those technology features work pretty well, especially for the big vehicle. The rear axle steering is, pretty helpful because it helps you when parking in and out and so on. It also makes the car a little bit more agile. The air suspension in general has a variation in niveau of about 9 centimeters, so 6 centimeters up when you're going off-road and 3 centimeters lower when you're going at higher speeds. And the latter one, the car also does automatically. 18 to 22 inch rims, and those wheels here are indeed the 22-inch wheels, the biggest one that are available, pretty massive. And probably you've seen it directly. Why does this car look so different than the predecessor or like the pre-facelift model? First of all, this is the S-line also, as I mentioned earlier, with the badge right here. So this has this sporty contrast effect here in this gray color all around the vehicle. And the designers, what did they do? They tried to create it more in an SUV style. So before, the Q7 looked pretty much like a wagon, and not like a SUV or this crossover look, and that has been strengthened now. First of all, there's no single black plain plastic anymore. Either you get it like this, already painted but in a contrast color, or in vehicle color, the wheel arches, but that way it definitely looks more SUV stylish. And since they also have basically changed the whole shape and made it a little bit more three-dimensional, that makes the car appear a little bit higher and therefore then also more SUV-ish. Also interesting that there is an additional small lip here right there. If you have big wheels, that's a regulation thing, that you need an additional mud guard here that, for example, stones don't fly all over the place. Very interesting. The rest of the shape hasn't been changed much. It's quite angular shape right here above the door handles, dividing in light and shadow a little bit, and then an interesting design line right there. So overall the car looks indeed more like an SUV, and I think that's actually a quite good direction. I would also take it with contrast here, or would you go for wheel arches in vehicle color? Tell me in the comments. In the rear you have this chrome strip all over the vehicle, and the best thing they have changed is all you see with the lights here. Interesting, this welcoming or goodbye light play when you have those top trim lights. And see also here those turning indicators. They are really very, very slim. I really wonder how that one went through regulations. Not sure if you can see that very easily when you're behind that vehicle. But overall, of course, it looks more modern than before. Those exhaust tips here, they are pure fake. There's nothing in it, the real exhaust in the lower part. And again, with this S-Line, you have those great contrasts right here. Again, stress the theme that it looks more SUV-ish now. And you can also have this light play here for the front lamps, of course. Looks also quite spectacular. Let's take a look under the hood. The main petrol engine will be a 3-liter 6-cylinder TFSI 340 horsepower. That will then also be the base for the new plug-in hybrid version. So they changed it now to the petrol engine for the plug-in hybrid. Pretty interesting. All with the 8-speed automatic converter gearbox and all-wheel drive distribution, 40% front, 60% rear. It also counts for the big diesels that are available, a 3-liter TDI, then again 6-cylinder with 231 horsepower or 286 horsepower, and there will be a new SQ7, the 4-liter TDI with 435 horsepower. That was already there before, below 5 seconds done. The acceleration figure to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. This is the car key, but you of course also have keyless entry. And interesting here, there's an option. You have this soft close. Well, you don't have to go for it. Always extra costs. Then inside of the doors, a beautiful Alcantara inset here, also pretty soft. And also the other materials are very well processed here. And with those galvanized tops here for the window levers, and they even have a nice clicking sound. You can see something of the ambient lighting here already, which is set to blue at the moment. Different decor elements are also available, and you have also reasonable space for the inside of the doors. And this sound system, I've tested it in the pre-facelift already, it has a very nice sound indeed. So the rest of the interior, you see there are a lot of upgrades you will soon talk more about. This one here, the S-Line with the flat and bottom of this steering wheel. And you can also see a glimpse of the new virtual instruments, 12.3 inch. Those seats here, by the way, there are different seat forms available. 4 actually, normal seat, comfort seat and a sport seat with a separate head restraint. This one is the S sport seat with the integrated head restraint, so an option, so to say. Base seats would also starting with fabric if you want to avoid animal skin. And the sport seats are also available with Alcantara on the inside, so that's available. This one here, the optional full animal skin equipment. Getting inside is quite easy. I really like it. Same with the Volkswagen Touareg, which is a sibling. So the Cayenne, the Touareg and the Q7, same platform. This very even entry right there. And you have a nice upright seating position as you're used to from big SUVs. So very comfortable. Those comfort seats or the normal seats and also the sport seats with the separated head restraint are a little bit more comfortable to me than those ones here with the integrated head restraint. Still, considering they are sport seats, they are still somewhat comfortable because it's a big car and you sit upright. However, you've seen this quilting on the seat. This gets really stiff, especially on long-term runs. So again, if you seek the best comfort, do not go for those seats and do not go for the animal skin surface if you want the best comfort of this car, because this is also one of the unique features. Headroom, no problem. This one here does not have the panoramic roof. So me with 1.86 m or 6'1", still plenty of headroom left. However, if you would go for the panoramic roof, you would still have enough headroom. Those seats are also all electric. You can use all those functions. There's also a seat massage available. And then, oh, seat massage is already starting. Maybe I need some more time in this vehicle today. And the electric steering support right here in height and also in reach. Takes some time, but it's nice to have it electric because then you can have some slight nuances where you can also move it to. The base Q7, however, will start with the manual control, which still does the job basically. Maybe some people recently bought a Q8 instead of a Q7 because they wanted this interior. Now you also get it for the Q7. So same as for the Q8, A6, A7, A8. This dual screen layout and also the virtual cockpit. In some markets where you have a base Q7, you will get analog instruments still. Then optional 12.3 inch, again depending on the trim also included. Then the top screen is either 8.8 inch as a base one. This one here, the optional, or in some markets from standard equipment, 10.1 inch. And the lower one will always be 8.6 For example, here for those climate controls, you can also do it like this. And this will then interact with the upper screen also when you take a look at the GPS. I'll soon show you more about that. Nice illuminated Quattro logo on the right side. This one here, the piano black, I think that's a matter of taste. But in general, it's a very nice processing quality. Again, everything is wrapped tightly, so it looks very clean. One of the cleanest interior in the segment, but all touchscreen based. So there's no central control knob to do anything for that. You can again see that the steering wheel is also quite small for this car. And it's very interesting because it is actually quite compact. It makes the car feel smaller than it is just by the steering wheel feeling. And nice also that they have mirrored this front grille here in the steering wheel. The automatic shifting lever is right here in the lower part, and you also have two cup holders which are adaptive, also well done. And then you have a standard armrest, which is interesting because it lifts up just a little bit like this when you go to the front, and then underneath that one, when you open it completely, then you have some more room and also the USB supplies. So this whole infotainment unit in the top part, again, you have this clicking effect, by the way. I would leave it like it is at the moment with a small click. There's also this option that you have to click very hardly, but I think that doesn't make any sense. You can connect either Apple CarPlay, even wireless now. Oh, at least it says here so. That's very interesting. So, and also Android Auto is also available then with the cable. And the camera system is also very interesting. If you have the highest camera trim spec, you also have this 3D view. They can really take a look at, oh, do I damage anything of those precious rims? And you have a very spectacular perspective from the outside then, or this fake room view from above. But of course, you can always just put the normal rear view camera in if you like, so you can switch it all around or use those buttons. So you have a lot of different functionalities here. Is it maybe over-engineered, or do you like this stuff? An interesting option is the head-up display. You can see the allowed speed, the current speed, and also some GPS information if you have a route installed. And now to the rear seats. That is the thing that makes this vehicle really special, because you have ample of legroom right here. So really a lot of legroom right there. Even if you're tall, I've set the seat to my driving position. Same with headroom. Plenty of that available, and you can also change the angle of the back part of the seat right here. You can sit also more upright if you like, a little bit more support on longer drives, and then when you want to sleep or so, then you can go all the way back. That's interesting. That would also be the same function to flip the seat completely from here, so you can do that already from here. Isofix at the outside parts each, and you can either get a through bench or like this one option with 3 single seats. And you can actually very well also sit on the middle part. That's quite okay. Well, there's a big middle tunnel, yes, but considering it's actually quite comfortable too. And you can also slide this bench here forward and backward like this. So easily done. You hold this on the lower part. And this is also really needed because if I want to get in the third seating row, then I really need to push it a little bit more forward. And the question is, when I would be sitting in the front, and also like this here, this would be the, maybe like this would be the maximum position I could still sit here. It's possible that there will also be adults in the rear. Let's find out. But before Thomas' workout starts, I want to show you the optional 4-zone AC, also with seat heating for the rear seats right there, and 2 more USB supplies in the lower part next to a 12-volt power supply. And now the interesting part of this review, because I'll flip the seat and then it, sticks tightly here. And then when we have already flipped the other seats that you can actually see it on camera. Then on both sides you have those electric controls that you can slide up the third row. Again, the third row is an option. You do not have to go for it. And then we can flip this seat when it's all the way down, manual like this with an hydraulic gas strut. And then you put it up and then I can actually access it. And remember, I've set this seat here in length to a position where I could still sit in the second row. The question is, can I still sit in the third row? And this will be very, very close. Very close, I can tell you. So, and now it's about raising those ones here up again. Let's see how that one plays out. Yeah, it does I would say, exactly work. It's not that it would be super comfortable here, then headroom-wise, there's no problem. But for length, yeah. So I think you can drive this vehicle with 7 adults, not necessarily on a long holiday run, but for a shorter trip, it is somewhat possible. But you see, it's of course working better when you have a little bit smaller people or children or so. They even thought about ISOFIX here for the last seating row, so you can also install child seats here. That's good that I thought of that. If I think this typical soccer team use, for example. However, of course, if you don't have to use the rear seats, your children will always be safer in the second row. If there is a rear crash, you always have to take that into consideration. But it's good that you have the possibilities. So it's actually quite well usable. Although in the GLS or in the X7 you have a little bit more room, but those are also longer cars. So it's always, if you're in the US, for example, you might not care about some extra 10 centimeters, but in Europe, those extra 10 centimeters can sometimes already be a problem. So it works, maybe not, like on long-term run, but you see you at least have a lot of possibilities still. And the overall package you have with this vehicle, so the length on the exterior, so the room you have on the inside, is actually quite good. And now it's trunk time. Let's open it right here. And I have the third seating row still up. Liter figures 865 to 2050 liters. And the trunk length you would still have would be 50 centimeters in length, which is still quite decent. And then you can also access it just electrically here. So right there are some buttons, and then you can hold them, so not with just one press. You really have to hold them for each side. Also do it simultaneously, of course. The head restraint flips in, and then you have the standard trunk length. I have put one seat still up here, so the standard trunk length would be about 120 in meters. And then when you have all the way flipped, then you can go all the way with this ruler. So this is 2 meters then to the middle console, and of course even longer if you want it all the way over to the middle console, then it would even be, about 2 meters and 50. And last but not least, what about the trunk width? That's always important. Usually, in a normal estate or SUV, it's about a meter. So that would be a meter in width. You see, it's even a little bit more. This one here is like 1.5 meters. In the very front part, you have a little bit more room to work with. And in height, the Q7 is not really that much limited. Just in the very low end, here is 40 centimeters. And here even, we're at about just over 70 centimeters, here even 75 centimeters, so very well usable. Again, this is also one of the reasons they have still this, in the upper part, somewhat a wagon style, because it is well usable as a wagon, as for the trunk capacity. But now again, with this crossover SUV strengthened look with the facelift, it indeed also looks less like a wagon, although it offers the flexibility from a wagon on the inside. So for a while now, some people were buying the Q8 because that one had the new interior. Now with the facelift, and that's our conclusion for today, the Q7 has this updated interior and so is basically up to date with all of the other big Audi models. As for the exterior, they trimmed it more on an SUV style, especially from the side profile, and of course this more modern front grille. Overall, I think it really works for the vehicle, and especially the great build quality on the interior. That was there before, yes, but now, of course, with a more modern infotainment system, for example, also with better voice input. The Q7 still offers a lot of space on the interior, so it's actually still a quite good package. It's not as long as, for example, the all-new X7 from BMW or the new GLS from Mercedes, but still you have some decent amount of space on the interior. That would also be the reason to go for this one and not for a Q8, which is more the sporty version of this one and not really laid out for the last seating row, which is the special unique feature of this very vehicle. Driving wise, it will be very interesting because we now also have the additional technologies that were reserved for the S models so far with the Q7 base models, if you like that so far. And also they promise a little bit less of consumption. If that's really true, we will find out on the driving event very soon. Thanks so much for tuning in, and please leave us your comments to this new Q7 facelift.